Isaiah being God's prophet for some 46 turbulent years. It's amazing what he saw. The spiritual condition of that nation was deplorable, but Isaiah never gave up in wanting to help his people. It must have broke his heart to see the 10-tribe kingdom of Israel destroyed by the Assyrians in 740 BCE. But Isaiah said early in his career, he said that, "Here I am, send me," and he never turned his back on that commission. Did Isaiah's words fall on deaf ears when he wanted to help ones to walk in Jehovah's way? This is the way. Well, obviously not. There were some that responded. Though he might have thought his best years were behind him, what about Hezekiah? Hezekiah took those words seriously, began to put his heart into serving Jehovah God, had a great influence on the nation. That was Hezekiah, and it must have made Isaiah's heart rejoice that his words were taken to heart by some individuals like Hezekiah. But there were others. Let's open our Bibles to 2 Chronicles chapter 34. 2 Chronicles chapter 34, and note others that really put their heart into serving Jehovah God to say, this is the way, walk in it. Those words of Isaiah would resonate in the ears of some. For example, chapter 34, Josiah, 8 years old when he became king. He reigned for 31 years in Jerusalem. Just a young boy, Josiah was. The year was 659. And here in verse 2, it says he did what was right in Jehovah's eyes. He walked in the ways of David. He didn't deviate to the right or to the left. Where did Josiah get this zeal to want to serve Jehovah, even at a young age? Wouldn't have been from his father. No, his father Ammon was wicked. But perhaps his grandfather, Manasseh. Manasseh died when Josiah was 6 years old. So you can imagine now this repentant Manasseh taking that little grand boy, putting him on his knee, helping him to understand about Jehovah God. Don't make the mistakes that I've made. He must have loved his grandpa, Josiah. And at 6 years old, now he's 8 years old, and he starts to serve Jehovah with zeal appropriate for that age. Now it's interesting that when Josiah was 8 years old in 659, and Nebuchadnezzar was about 5 years old. So Josiah, he becomes this king full of compassion. He loved people. Nebuchadnezzar, he becomes a king of cruelty and actually does such damage to the nation of Israel and, of course, Josiah's son Zedekiah, who he ends up blinding. Josiah, so different from others. Well, let's look at verse 3. In the 8th year of his reign, that is Josiah, now he's 15 years old, he's still a boy, he starts to search for the true God. And now in the 12th year of his reign, he's even cleansing Judah. He has a campaign against idolatry, and he's 19 years old, and he sweeps through with zeal at 19 years old. This is the way, walk in it. See, going back to that theme, this is the way. How happy, grateful Josiah must have been when someone else comes to Jerusalem by the name of Jeremiah. Jeremiah comes in about 648, 647, and they're about the same age. Josiah's 19, Jeremiah's in his early 20s. What a team. They become friends. They love each other. And what a duo as they continue to help God's people walk in the way. Like a stereo system, both of them. Look at verse 31. And just picture what's happening here in Jerusalem with Josiah, with Jeremiah. Verse 31, there's Josiah helping ones to keep God's commandments, reading the law that he found from the book of the law in their ears, reading it, helping them to walk in the way. Verse 31, it says that Josiah would follow Jehovah, keep his commandments, his reminders, his regulations with all his heart and with all his soul. Carry out those words. You can just sense Josiah's feelings are just bleeding through these pages. Love for Jehovah God and wanting ones to walk in the way of Jehovah. So there you have Josiah. You have Jeremiah. It's wonderful to see. Now, as the years roll on, would Josiah take note of a young Judean boy in the royal court by the name of Daniel. Daniel would have been young, but perhaps he put his eye on Daniel and said, this boy, he has a bright future in Jehovah's service. We don't know. And Josiah wouldn't live to see Daniel's accomplishments in due time. But it's interesting, still, this is the way, walk in it. Individuals responded to that from Isaiah. It did not fall on deaf ears. How do we know? Well, let's go a little bit further. Now the year is 617 BCE, and you have Daniel, you have Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Ezekiel, all individuals that responded to Jehovah's word. And when you think about how they had to take the words of Isaiah, take the words of Jeremiah, these boys, and really apply it to their life and under their circumstances, we're very proud of them. For example, now Josiah is dead and his sons and grandson begin to reign. You have wicked kings. And from the boyhood of Daniel to his teens, he witnessed the conduct, bad conduct at the nation's highest levels. Jehoahaz, 23 years old, wicked. Jehoiakim, 25 years old, wicked. Jehoiakim, 18 years old, wicked. Zedekiah, 21 years old, wicked. Bad kings. And these boys watching this, well, that's their names, Jehoahaz, Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim, Zedekiah. But they have nicknames, dumb, dumber, dumbest, and stupid. And yet Daniel would not be influenced by their bad conduct. It's amazing to imagine what these boys were able to do and how their faith remained intact. They walked in Jehovah's way. They resolved in their heart, especially Daniel, to be loyal to Jehovah God. To what extent? Ezekiel 14:14. Ezekiel 14 and verse 14, these amazing words, where Ezekiel, 5 years after Daniel comes to Babylon, Ezekiel writes these words. So Daniel now is in his early 20s. Ezekiel's about 30 years old, like Daniel's older brother. You can imagine how proud Ezekiel would have been to write these words about Daniel. No jealousy. I love that boy. He's like my little brother. And he says, if Noah and Daniel and Job were here, you see, they would save themselves because of their righteous conduct. Daniel was amazing. To be sandwiched between Job and Noah at such a young age. And that's the type of man we're talking about. Why do we bring it up? We bring it up because we have many Daniel-like brothers and sisters right in our Bethel family here. Young brothers and sisters who have determined in their heart to prove the devil a liar, to take advantage of their youth, to show Jehovah how loyal they want to be, the depth of their devotion. And we want to commend these young brothers and sisters, Daniel-like ones. We cannot legislate love of God for you. We cannot legislate how you use your electronic devices. We cannot legislate what you watch with television and movie. We cannot do that. We cannot tell you to put a firewall up for your computer. You can get around all that. You're smart. Your firewall is your love for Jehovah God, your depth of devotion for him. And that's what we're saying. Thank you for using your free will, like Daniel, to honor Jehovah God. Keep it up. And what about our older ones? Daniel continued to serve Jehovah up until about 100 years old. He never gave up. What helped him? His prayers to Jehovah God. Prayer was the bedrock of his faith. So older Daniel-like members of our family that have served Jehovah for decades, your loyalty is so deeply appreciated, and it's your prayer that have caused you day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, to continue to serve Jehovah. And just as Daniel and Isaiah and Jeremiah and Josiah had a positive impact on the people of their day, let me reassure you, you older brothers and sisters, you mature ones, your loyalty and determination to walk in Jehovah's way for decades has deeply influenced our Bethel family. Your determination never to betray your God has touched us personally, and for this we say thank you.